Every year, something incredible happens on Earth. Not in one place, not in one ecosystem, but everywhere. Across oceans, across continents, across entire hemispheres. Animals begin to move, billions of them. Some travel hundreds of miles, others travel thousands, and a few cross almost the entire planet. A bird the size of your hand leaves the Arctic and flies all the way to Antarctica. A whale weighing 40 tons swims across entire oceans without stopping to eat. Butterflies rise into the sky and drift across an entire continent. And on the plains of Africa, the ground itself seems to come alive as millions of animals begin walking in the same direction. These are migrations, but they are far more than simple journeys. They are some of the most extreme movements any living creature can survive. Journeys through storms, across deserts, over oceans with no land in sight. And for many animals, the journey never ends in arrival. Many die before they ever reach their destination. But the migration continues, year after year, generation after generation. Because migration is not optional. Migration is survival. And for some species, this strategy has evolved into something almost unbelievable. Journeys so long, so precise, and so dangerous that they remain among the most astonishing behaviors in the entire natural world. These are the most insane animal migrations on Earth. At first glance, migration seems simple. Animals move from one place to another. But in reality, migration is one of the most complex behaviors evolution has ever produced. Because an animal that migrates must solve a series of extraordinary problems. It must know when to leave. It must know where to go. It must know how far to travel. And somehow, it must find the destination again. Sometimes thousands of miles away. All without maps, without GPS, without any clear landmarks. Yet animals solve these problems every year with astonishing precision. Birds cross entire oceans. Fish navigate back to the exact river where they were born. Butterflies find the same forest their ancestors visited decades earlier. And mammals travel across continents following ancient routes carved into their instincts. Why do they do it? Because the planet is constantly changing. Seasons shift, temperatures drop, food disappears, water dries up. The places that once supported life suddenly become hostile. Migration allows animals to follow the conditions they need to survive. But while many species migrate short distances, a few have taken this strategy to an incredible extreme. Some animals travel farther than almost anything else alive, and the champion of long-distance migration is a bird. The Arctic tern does not look extraordinary. It's small, light, almost delicate. An adult Arctic tern weighs about 100 grams, roughly the weight of a small apple. But every year, this tiny bird performs the longest migration on Earth. Arctic terns breed in the Arctic during the northern summer. For a few brief months, the region explodes with life. The sun never sets. Fish are abundant. Chicks grow quickly in the endless daylight. But when winter approaches, everything changes. Temperatures plunge, food disappears, and the Arctic becomes one of the most hostile environments on the planet, so the terns leave. But they don't simply migrate south a few hundred miles. They travel to the opposite end of the world, all the way to Antarctica. The journey from the Arctic to Antarctic waters can exceed 35,000 kilometers, and later, the birds return to the Arctic once again, which means the full annual journey can reach nearly 70,000 kilometers. That's more than 43,000 miles every single year. To put that in perspective, an Arctic tern could fly from New York to Tokyo, then back again, and still repeat the trip several more times, all within a single year. Over the course of its lifetime, one Arctic tern may travel over 2.4 million kilometers. That's roughly the distance from Earth to the Moon and back 3 times. And yet the bird accomplishes this using nothing but its wings and instinct. Even more remarkable is how they navigate, because much of the journey takes place over open ocean, where there are no landmarks, no mountains, coastlines, or roads. Yet the birds rarely get lost. Scientists believe Arctic terns use a combination of navigational tools: the sun during the day, the stars at night, wind patterns, ocean currents, and even Earth's magnetic field. They are essentially living navigation systems, and their journey represents one of the greatest migrations on the planet. But birds are not the only animals capable of crossing enormous distances, because deep beneath the ocean's surface, another traveler is making a journey just as impressive. Humpback whales are among the largest animals ever to live on Earth. Adults can reach 15 meters in length. They can weigh up to 40 tons. But despite their enormous size, they travel extraordinary distances every year. During the summer, humpback whales feed in cold polar waters. These regions are rich in plankton and small fish. Whales gorge themselves for months, building enormous fat reserves. But winter brings darkness and ice. Food becomes scarce, and the whales begin migrating. Some populations travel over 8,000 kilometers between feeding grounds and breeding areas, from Antarctica to tropical waters near the equator. The journey can take months, and during this time, the whales eat almost nothing. They survive by burning the fat they stored during the feeding season. But why travel so far? Because warm tropical water is safer for newborn calves. Young whales lose heat quickly in cold environments. But in tropical seas, calves can grow stronger before returning to the harsh polar waters. So every year, humpback whales cross entire oceans to give birth. Then, months later, they make the same journey again in reverse. It is one of the longest migrations performed by any mammal. But if whale migrations are impressive, they are still small compared to one of the most spectacular migrations on land. Because in East Africa, migration becomes something almost impossible to imagine. Across the plains of East Africa, there is a moment every year when the landscape begins to change. At first, it looks like dust, then movement, then sound. Low rumbling hooves echo across the savanna, and suddenly the ground appears alive, because more than 2 million animals have begun to move. This is the Great Wildebeest Migration, the largest land migration on Earth. Every year across the Serengeti and Masai Mara ecosystems, enormous herds of wildebeest begin traveling in search of fresh grass. But they do not travel alone. Alongside them move hundreds of thousands of zebras, gazelles, and other grazing animals. Together, they form a moving ecosystem stretching for miles across the landscape. From the air, the migration looks like a river made of animals, but the journey is brutal. The animals must cross scorching plains, they must avoid predators, and they must cross rivers filled with crocodiles. One of the most dramatic moments of the migration happens when the herds reach the Mara River. Thousands of animals gather along the riverbanks. They hesitate, because once they enter the water, there is no turning back. When the first animals jump, chaos erupts. Wildebeest tumble into the river. Some drown in the currents. Others are seized by crocodiles waiting beneath the surface. Yet the herd keeps moving, because if they stay behind, they starve. Migration forces them forward. This journey covers roughly 800 kilometers every year, and it has been happening for thousands of years, long before modern humans ever appeared on the African savanna. But migration does not belong only to massive mammals. Some of the most astonishing journeys are made by creatures far smaller, creatures so fragile, they seem like impossible travelers. The monarch butterfly weighs less than a paperclip. Its wings are delicate, thin, almost transparent. Yet every year, monarch butterflies perform one of the most remarkable migrations on Earth. Across North America, millions of monarchs begin moving south as summer fades. Their destination lies thousands of kilometers away in the mountains of central Mexico. For butterflies in Canada, the journey may exceed 4,000 kilometers. But here is the strange part. The butterflies making the journey have never been there before. The migration spans multiple generations. Butterflies born in Canada lay eggs in the United States. Their offspring continue the journey further south. Eventually, a special generation emerges. Scientists call them the super generation. These butterflies live far longer than normal monarchs, and they are the ones that complete the journey to Mexico. When they arrive, something extraordinary happens. Millions of butterflies gather in the forests. They cover entire trees. Branches bend beneath the weight of orange wings. The forest itself seems to breathe as butterflies open and close their wings in the sunlight. But perhaps the most mysterious part of the monarch migration is navigation. How do these insects find the exact same forests their ancestors used decades earlier? Scientists believe monarchs navigate using the sun's position combined with an internal biological clock. They may also detect Earth's magnetic field. But even today, the full mystery of their navigation remains unsolved. And monarch butterflies are not the only animals capable of navigating across enormous distances, because in the ocean, another traveler performs a migration that spans an entire lifetime. Pacific salmon begin life in freshwater rivers. As tiny fish, they drift downstream toward the ocean. There, they spend several years growing and feeding in the open sea. But eventually, something remarkable happens. The salmon turn around and begin swimming back to the exact river where they were born. This migration can span thousands of kilometers across the ocean, but the most difficult part of the journey begins when the salmon reach land, because they must now swim upstream, against powerful river currents. They leap over waterfalls, they push past rocks and rapids. Predators wait along the riverbanks: bears, eagles, otters. Many salmon never reach the destination, but those that survive eventually arrive at the spawning grounds, the same place where their lives began. Scientists believe salmon locate their birth river using an extraordinary sense of smell. Each river carries a unique chemical signature, and salmon remember that signature even after years in the ocean. When the journey is complete, the salmon reproduce, and soon after, most of them die. Their bodies decompose in the river, feeding forests, insects, and animals across the ecosystem. Their migration transfers nutrients from the ocean to the land, a reminder that migration doesn't just move animals, it moves energy across the planet. One of the most extreme migrations on Earth is performed by a bird few people have ever heard of: the bar-tailed godwit. This coastal bird breeds in Alaska, but when winter approaches, it begins one of the most astonishing journeys in the animal kingdom. It flies across the Pacific Ocean, all the way to New Zealand, a journey of more than 11,000 kilometers. And the bird does something almost unbelievable. It never stops. No food, water, or land for more than 8 days. The godwit flies continuously across open ocean. Before leaving Alaska, the birds double their body weight by storing fat. Their digestive organs shrink during flight to reduce weight. Their bodies become optimized for endurance. Then they launch into the sky and fly for days, across storms, across wind currents, across an empty ocean, until land finally appears, the longest non-stop migration ever recorded. One of the greatest mysteries of migration is navigation. How do animals travel thousands of miles with such incredible accuracy? Scientists have discovered that many migrating animals use several navigation systems simultaneously. Birds can detect Earth's magnetic field. Sea turtles appear to memorize magnetic signatures of beaches where they were born. Salmon use chemical signals in rivers. Butterflies rely on the position of the sun combined with internal biological clocks. Some animals even navigate using the stars. Migration is essentially a natural global navigation system, but unlike human technology, it evolved slowly over millions of years. Animals that navigated correctly survived. Animals that became lost did not. Over time, migration became encoded in genes and instincts, creating one of the most reliable natural systems on Earth. Every year, without maps, without technology, without guidance from anyone, animals begin journeys that stretch across the entire planet. Birds cross hemispheres, whales cross oceans, butterflies cross continents. Fish return to the exact river where they were born. Many never survive the trip, but the migration continues, because migration is written into their biology. It is older than civilization, older than humanity. And as long as life exists on Earth, these journeys will continue. Proof that some of the most incredible travelers on our planet are not human explorers, but animals following ancient paths across the world.